Hello world, it's Lee Kelson coming to you live. We're wrapping up the day here at the Indonesian Australian Digital Forum. It's been an absolutely amazing day. Lots of, I think, connections and collaboration. And I'm here with a very special guest. And I'm going to read it. It's Sukan Makmuri. I've only tried to say it about 10 times. Welcome, Sukan. How are you?
Very well, thank you very much. And you?
I'm very well. Getting a bit tired. The feet are getting a bit tired. But you have an amazing story, and I was introduced to you by somebody who's helped get us both here, Nigel Hembro, who got you here. He's responsible for getting you here and also for getting Beach City here. So can you just give us a little bit of your background?
Certainly. After graduating from high school, my parents had to sell their home to fund my college education in United States. So I didn't plan to come back to Indonesia until 2012. So because of the opportunity, amazing opportunity that this country offers. Now, I went to college there for about 5 years and then started. And then in 1989, I joined the first startup. So that was last century.
Right. So your parents sold their family home.
Yes, moved to a much smaller home.
In order to pay for your education in the US. And you went to Stanford?
Yes.
Yeah. And sorry, what did you study at Stanford?
Engineering management.
Right, okay. And so did you stay in the US for a long time, or did you come back here?
Yes, actually I went there for more than 20 years.
Yep.
I will not name exact year because then you'll know how old I am.
I reckon it's 27, 28?
Exactly. Actually, it's 28, yes.
It's 28. I got it in one. Yeah, okay. Okay, and so when on your return to Indonesia, what was the next part of the chapter?
Yes, I returned because of the amazing opportunity that I saw in this country. So when I returned, I helped to turn around a company called Kaskus. It's actually a combination of Reddit and Craigslist together. It's the biggest community in Indonesia.
So what year was that? What
year? It was 2013 until 2014.
Right, okay. And that was successful?
Oh, yeah. So the company is now moving to the next level. Now, of course, as any startup, you need to keep on improving yourself, right?
Yeah.
So then it's a matter of how well we improvise from then on.
Yeah, right. Okay. And so are you involved in any companies? You are involved in a few companies now as an investor, angel investor?
Okay. So after Kaskus, I actually spent most of the time in US, the next couple of years, building the next startup as well as continuing to mentor other startups. And then 2016 August, I returned to build the PayPal of Indonesia with funding in hand, but discovered that I need to have e-money license. After some investigation, I decided not to proceed because it takes about 4 years to get the license. Meanwhile, met with Kudo CEO, and he was looking for a CTO at that time. And I looked at the opportunity that Kudo provided to the unbanked community in Indonesia, which are about 80% of Indonesians do not have bank accounts, smartphones, or Wi-Fi. And they are being ignored, if you will, right? Yeah. So this financial inclusion services that Kudo provides to me is very attractive. And I also have an agenda to have the company to be sold within a year.
Right.
And that happened.
And that happened?
Yes.
And can I ask what you sold the company for?
Certainly. It's in the public news.
Yes.
It said it's 100 million.
Right. And so, and now you, I think you're very passionate about mentoring young, early stage companies and startups and youth.
Yes. So mentoring started in 2000 in Silicon Valley, and then 2012 I resumed here. Actually, 2011 even I actually started looking at Founders Institute in Indonesia. Then a lot of the incubators and accelerators in Jakarta actually somehow invited me to be their mentor of their portfolio companies.
Right.
So that's what happened.
Right. Okay. And so I see, in Silicon Valley, there's a lot of mentors, a lot of the people that were in sort of the dot-com first stage, dot-com 1.0, they stayed around for dot-com 2, and then they mentor and they pay it forward and they give it back. But I also see a lot of ecosystems where the people that make a lot of money, and you have $100 million exit, you should be on the boat in the Mediterranean, but you're here mentoring startups. So explain to us why that's important.
Addiction is very difficult to get rid of. And one of my addiction is to learn new things. And my goal is to learn something new every single day, as well as helping others. Because by helping others, actually, I learn more. I get more back.
Right.
The satisfaction is there when I give a certain recommendation or certain strategy, tactical plans that actually is executed and actually gives them a payback.
Yeah, right. And I think sometimes I've spoken to a number of people that say exactly that they go along and do a talk to somebody, and then people come up to them and say, "Oh, thank you very much," and they say, "Well, actually, I got more out of it than you did because of the feedback and the questions and the fact that they saw somebody's eyes light up or a light bulb moment."
Exactly, because money is not everything. Money is the only thing. I mean, it's helpful to have money, but there are other ways to get the payback.
Money's not everything, but it's the only thing. No, it's not. But and I think that's very important because it's one of the things we've been talking about today as well is purpose and passion.
Yes.
And I think that what I get a little frustrated with is a lot of the headlines of the next billionaire and the next unicorn, and we hear all of this. And I think that young people out there think that if they're not a unicorn or they're not a billionaire or they haven't raised $600 million that they're not successful. Yeah. It's not really about that, is it?
Well, there's a combination because remember, I could be passionate, very, very passionate about underwater basket weaving. But how is it going to change lives, right?
Right.
So there needs to be a combination. So if we want to build a startup, what is a startup? Startup is a company that actually ventures into the unknown and try to find the pain points that others have not solved or not solved as well, and then provide a solution to it. So that's in essence what a startup is.
Yeah.
Now, in order to do that in the long term, not only for 3 months or 6 months and running out of money and then die, then we need to figure out a way to actually make it worthwhile for the investors to provide the next boost. In other words, to extend the runway.
Yes.
Otherwise, we can't do that because just like human beings, when we run out of oxygen, for some reason, we die.
Yes.
Same thing with startups. When they run out of money, for some reasons, they die.
Yes.
And I was on the investing side, witnessing a lot of this, even though there's a lot of promising, because the business model is very important. The founders, having the grit, the perseverance, in Indonesian language is called tahan banting, meaning if you're thrown, if you're thrown on the floor, you get up again. In other words, you fall down 7 times, you get up 8 times. Right. That's the most important thing. Right. And then there's another bigger factor, which is called timing of the market, because if the market is not providing the proper timing, we will miss the window of opportunity, and we can't really recover as easily. Yeah. So there's to run a startup in the short term, it's definitely doable, but to make it sustainable and beneficial to the ecosystem, it's another thing, because the ecosystem is comprised of the employees, meaning we need to provide salaries for them, the employees, and their families, right? In order to do that responsibly, we need to be able to acquire money either through investors and or through our income, right? Revenues. Customers, paying customers, right?
They're good.
They're important, very important in the ecosystem.
They are.
Yes. Yeah. And then, of course, customers being the second. And then the third one is the investors, because from time to time, we may be building business and it requires additional investment that would not have allowed the startup to provide the solutions otherwise. Yeah. So, for example, Amazon was negative for only 8 years before they break even, and they went negative again because they are expanding in different areas.
They're reinvesting.
They're reinvesting, but for good reasons. It's not like reinvesting for, hey, we want to be bigger. Yeah. Right. That's a very dangerous model. Right. I'm not going to name company names, but for the sake of growth, Amazon is doing the right thing.
Does it start with U?
Yeah,
Okay,
probably.
you won't mention it, but I'll call them Uber. $65 million, still burning $2 million. Where's the path to profitability? Is that what?
Well, they only lost 780 million last year's second quarter.
Oh, so that was an improvement.
That's an improvement, yes.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
used to lose more.
Yeah. But I do see that sometimes the amount of money that people raise is worn as a badge of honour, and that seems to be the most important thing. And I see in my mentoring roles where people they want me to help them build a pitch to raise investment, and I say, well, how about I help build a pitch to get a customer?
Yes, yeah. Customer acquisition is a very challenging part of maintaining the survival of the startup, because without customers, paying customers especially, right, it's very hard to pay for all these expenses. You can say that, we can get investors' money, but there is a time where you will run out of investors' money, or you will have to find another set of investors, for example, through acquisitions or through IPO.
Yeah, right. So just to finish up, I think mentors are a really important part of an ecosystem, and I see less mentors than I see investors and startups and wannabe entrepreneurs and everything else. So I think it's important for mentors that are out there in the Indonesian ecosystem, come and help people like this man here to help mentor these young startups, and for a young person or someone that's starting in a startup.
You mean like me?
Like you, how important is a mentor for them, and how do they find a mentor?
Let me say that the good news about founders are a lot of them are self-confident. They know what they want. They think they know what the customers want, etc. Right? Having that confidence is important for resilience if they fall down, and they know that they can come back. Right? At the same time, right, there's a limit to certain things. Always, because if we push over the limit, then we usually break. As an example, a not so well-known golfer like Tiger Woods. Actually, he's well-known. Okay. Yes.
He was well known.
Yes.
For golf.
Yes,
One
for golf.
stage.
Yes, specifically, let's talk about golf. And so, do people think he needs a mentor, a coach? Actually, he doesn't only have one coach. He have multiple coaches.
Right.
Because in order to golf properly, it used to be like hitting properly is done. Okay, done. But later on, as it becomes more and more competitive, he actually invested in a lot of things, including specific psychological, specific weight training, endurance, and so on top of the normal, which is the golf strokes. Right? So in other words, even as a person as successful as Tiger needs to have somebody to actually help him understand where he made a mistake, prevent certain mistake, recover from mistakes, and by having a mentor, experienced mentor that is, that mentor will help accelerate the discovery of problems or potential identification of potential problems, and then preventing it.
Yes.
Because once, for example, if I hold a cup and it drops, it breaks, right, on the floor, then it will take a longer time for me to clean up, and hopefully I don't hurt myself, compared to if I were somebody else, a mentor said, hey, the way you hold that thing is very dangerous. You should hold it this way or have something behind it, right? And that way you prevent that thing that you thought will not happen.
Yeah.
But once it happens, it will cost you a lot more effort, time, resources just to recover.
Right. But what I find interesting about that is the only reason the mentor knew that is because at some stage in his career in the past, he made that very mistake.
Yes.
And so it's the ability to learn from those mistakes and not have to make the same mistakes again.
Right. And since I joined the first startup in 1989, the last century, I have made so many mistakes. I have observed so many even mistakes in my experience through management consulting as well as building different startups. So I've seen so many different variations.
Yeah.
And so when startups come to me with only 2 weeks experience, all the way to the ones having stores in different malls in Jakarta, they have different problems. And fortunately, have been able to help them to go to the next level.
I could stand here and talk to you forever. You're an amazing story and amazing contributor to the Indonesian ecosystem. So for people like you that get out there and help these companies, it's super important. So thank you for the work that you're doing. And as I said, I could keep talking to you forever. But if people want to contact you, where's the best place to contact you? Are you on social media, or are you a bit too young for that?
Well, I actually use my Facebook about 4 times a year.
Right.
So that may not be the best. I would say WhatsApp, but then if I give it out here, it will be challenged.
No. So just remember, we'll put the names in the tag, and if anybody wants to find out more, they can either contact through Recap or through Nigel or through Beach City.
Yes,
it's been an absolute
absolutely.
pleasure talking with you, and thank you very much for your time.
Okay.
Thank
Similar.
you.
Yeah, likewise.